episode of Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mao podcast. I'm so excited and honored today. I have a guest, Aubrey, on. She is the owner of Rise Up Again in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Aubrey has struggled with her mental health since having her daughter 5 years ago. God placed this business on her heart years ago to use her own personal struggles to help others find a voice. She uses dance therapy and movement to help others who are in the dark to navigate through mental health struggles and to feel less alone. And here she is. Hey, Aubrey.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. And Shannon, our friend, a mutual friend of our each other, we introduced or got introduced to each other. So this is so awesome, and I'm just so happy and glad that we're able to do this and to have you share your story.
Oh,
So yeah, Aubrey, could you start by telling us about the birth of your daughter and what those early days of motherhood were like? And what were some of the first signs that something wasn't quite right?
yeah. So I'd like to just kind of highlight my pregnancy was beautiful. We had no complications. It just was very calming, honestly. So I went into it thinking that that was going to be the case. And I ended up being induced on September 20th of 2019. And um, the whole process went very smoothly, actually.
Okay.
So, um, despite having to have a C-section, I did not want that to happen, but it was God's plan was a little bit different. It still was like a beautiful pregnancy, and a beautiful birth, actually. Ironically enough, in the OR when I was getting my C-section done, we were listening to Mumford and Sons with like the OB staff and yeah, so it was just super chill, everything that we had prayed for and wanted and hoped for.
Oh,
Uh, but that quickly turned about 14-ish days after. Ended up having pretty demonic dreams that I thought were reality. So I'd wake up screaming, not knowing that the difference between reality and what was actually happening. Very intrusive thoughts. So like thoughts that were definitely far-fetched, not my own, and just major heightened anxiety to a point where I was having multiple panic attacks in a day and could not calm myself.
wow. So it just all of a
Um,
sudden started.
yeah, the onset was pretty acute, actually. So um, yeah, it was pretty terrifying. And not ever experiencing that, um, I didn't really know what was going on with me at that point.
Yeah, and then so how did you know what you were getting or what was going on later on, right? So you got diagnosed with something because obviously these thoughts aren't your thoughts. And this happens a lot with postpartum, right? With
Yeah,
a lot of women, but women don't really talk about it, which is kind of
no,
sad.
they don't. It is sad. It is sad. And honestly, Western medicine needs to do a lot better as far as, really sticking alongside of the moms. I would even argue a year after giving birth. So, I mean, my OB was very aware of the situation, and she actually ended up discharging me at 6 weeks,
Wow.
as I was going through psychosis. So, I can go off on a tangent and say how I really feel strongly that doctors need to educate themselves on the onset of psychosis because it is a medical emergency
Yeah.
too. So, um, but yeah, I mean, you feel very alone and isolated. Thankfully, I have a really amazing support system that knew the red flags, and got me the help that I needed.
Oh, amazing. So yeah, your family members, and I'm sure, your husband was a great support. And a lot of people actually don't have that though. And they wouldn't even know if they were having psychosis or postpartum depression, right? So a lot of women have it and they're just given like depression pills or something like, and then no real actual help. And you're right. I really believe that women's health in general is not really you know, like taken seriously in the medical world because I have endometriosis too, and we get gaslit a lot. Like,
All of the time.
it's casted as like a period problem type of um problem, but it's not. It's actually a real disease that causes a lot of pain and causes a lot in a lot of women. So I totally get like what you went through. Not exactly, but women's health.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
we all are in it together, honestly. No matter what the diagnosis is, honestly, it it manifests in the same way. You know, you feel alone, you feel gaslit, you feel like, what did I do to deserve this? You
Yeah.
know, um, yeah, kind of all those thoughts are kind of racing at that point.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
it's so hard. So you were eventually diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And I should know 2 years prior, my twin sister was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis.
What? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. So we thought that was a one off because she had a very, very traumatic birth. And
Whoa.
we thought that it was caused
Yeah.
by that, where I did not have
Mhm.
that similar situation. And I talked openly, as well as my husband, to my nurse and OB, explaining the situation, and they gaslit me. This will never happen. This will never happen. We'll watch out for it, but it's not going to happen to you. Don't be scared. I think you're anxious. Blah blah blah. Um, and I mean, it's like, I think some crazy statistic that it happens to like 0.1% of the population of moms. Yeah. So we didn't know what we didn't know at that
Yeah.
point. Going into pregnancy, I was like, I'm a little terrified that it may happen. And
Yeah.
I definitely want to prepare myself, but God's got me. And, if it happens, it happens. Um, so knowing that, my family knew exactly what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool in a sense where, I mean, sorry, that's it happened with your twin, but then at least you're not like so thrown off like it's the first time, your twin. That is so wild. So is it like what happens to you when you do get a psychosis or like what causes that? Because your twin had it and then you had it too. So it's more likely that, it's something within you that can cause this. Yeah.
Yeah. So years later, we both have done our heavy research on it.
Hmm.
Um, and just, I mean, I have a daughter, so that's my duty. If she wants to have kids, I need to know, what has caused. So we ended up finding out that it is genetic. Um, and it's caused by a gene that is set off. So the MTFHR gene, you can get a genetic testing. Anyone can get that. Um, and it it's like a trigger sets off in your body, and causes this onset of psychosis, which is a lot of mania, hallucinations, thoughts that are not your own. Yeah, you feel like you're living in a different world, essentially. It's terrifying. Um, so we know we know that now, but it took a lot of years to figure that out. And knowing that now, that's something that I can help my daughter navigate through. Because essentially, we have like a hypothesis that it was the epidural potentially that caused the trigger of psychosis, or the trigger of the gene to set off in our body.
Wow.
And psychosis is actually excess dopamine in the brain.
I didn't.
So, yeah, I mean, your brain is just constantly going from highway to highway, essentially, and has nowhere to attach. So, yeah.
God, thank you for sharing that. That must be so hard to go through that. But I'm glad that you have your twin to do it. Is it so much easier to like you both had the same experiences so then you guys can help each other out? And did she actually get off of like because you have to take medication, right, for
Yeah.
psychosis episodes,
Uh,
right?
Psychiatrists put you on antipsychotics to get you out of the psychotic manic state, which is essential. I do believe that is there for a reason, but to stay on them is pretty detrimental to your health. Um, but yeah, so my twin was able to help me out in huge ways. Actually, we lived with her for a couple of months actually, and went to a facility in Chicago, Amita, that has like a mom and baby unit there that I could strap on my daughter and just go to therapy for like 6 hours a day.
Wow.
So it was an intensive outpatient. But moms there from, you know, there are some moms that had psychosis, some depression, OCD, anxiety. We all were just helping each other out. So,
That's so
yeah.
beautiful. And I feel like community is such a great way to like have like to overcome something, you know, it's so you feel less alone because when you are going through something so traumatic and so crazy and serious, you really feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
And it's bringing me back to all the memories of me having endometriosis and infertility and then but overcoming that because I had such a great support and family. Um, and endometriosis too is caused by genetics. And so I went down a rabbit hole too and researched. And so most likely the woman carries the gene. So I have a daughter, so she can have it more likely than
Yeah.
other. So yeah, you're doing your due diligence and that's awesome. I love that you're taking your power and researching, doing the work, finding help, getting help, and then knowing like what you need to do for you and your family. And that's so beautiful. And a lot of people, again, it's just like raising awareness. You're able to tell your story so people can get the help or wherever it is necessary to find help or what type of resources, right? Because you don't even know that. I had a coworker who had that like psychosis episode where she started having dark visions and things of doing to her daughter and she started like freaking out and crying and like was just put on, pills and that just made her even more depressed, which was so sad to see, and a lot of women are just like that. Like they don't know what to do, right? Because we're in the generation where our parents didn't go through that or ever talked about it. So we're like, okay, what resources do I have? What should I do? And then we have to go and like do it ourselves and ignite our own power. And so I'm glad that you and your sister did that. So that's so beautiful. Um, but how did that take a toll on your mental and physical health when you were going through the psychosis and all of that?
Oh, Kathy, it was awful. Like, I was so excited to have a baby. And honestly, people tell you it's the most beautiful experience that you'll ever go through. And It's a new journey, and we were just so excited to grow our family at this point. So having that flipped um, and turned to this very dark, dark place was absolutely devastating. um, I had to have help during that time, of people momming my child, my brand new newborn. So I myself was doing that, but when you go through psychosis, you're extremely tired all the time. So I would have to sleep and get, just extra care for her. So not only did I feel really shameful, like, why did this have to happen to me? And why did my brain turn on me? Why can't I have a normal brain? All those things were just processed during that point. Um, and then, why can't I take care of my daughter at times? And my husband would remind me, no, you did take care of her a majority of the time, Aubrey, but you were doing what you could do. And we helped with that 10%. So, he always reminds me of that, which is pretty awesome.
It's so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and they documented a lot of things too. Just like pictures and things that I missed out on. I felt having psychosis. Yeah, it's just those, you wanted desperately to have the normalcy of motherhood, breastfeeding. She latched very quickly, and it was beautiful before the onset of psychosis. And then I had to wean off of breastfeeding. So that was like a huge grieving process for me. Um, and then, just the normal things that you're like, you take for granted when your brain is healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was awful. And then antipsychotics are needed. Oh, there's like a fly here. They're needed and needed to get out of the mania, but it hits a certain point where your body gets used to them. And then it has a reverse effect on your brain. So that reverse effect is deep, deep depression and anxiety. And you're still having these thoughts. So it's literally a fight against your brain.
Oh my God.
Like 24 hours a day. So,
That's,
yeah.
that's so wild. And thank you for sharing that because I don't even know that. And I'm sure a lot of other, women who are going through this right now don't even know that either. And
Yeah.
so thank you for sharing that. That is so crazy that all these women are put on this for so long though, and they don't know how to break from that. Like, there are other ways, correct? There's like other ways to get off of it. And I know that your mom was a pharmacist, so she was able to help you like, break from having all those drugs. So how does she help you with that? And, so people know maybe to get the right help or whatnot in order to take less or even just get rid of it altogether.
Yeah. So I would know, obviously, work with your doctor on this. I'm not a medical professional whatsoever. But my mom, she's been a pharmacist for 25 plus years, and she knew the implications of the antipsychotics and how they do in time reverse. So it was integral to get me off of them. So we, alongside of my doc, came up with a plan to safely wean off of these drugs. And every time I was tapering off of them, a little piece of myself came back. So during that time, I ended up meeting a functional med who actually also incorporated supplements and a nutrition plan that actually helped me with, because you can get side effects from these, that helped me just wean off and negate the side effects of it. But my mom was such an integral part of that, as well as my husband too, during that time. And yeah, yeah, her expertise, we're lucky to have her for sure. So
Yeah,
she did the same for my twin sister too. So
that's awesome. But I feel like, see, everything's meant to be it because
yeah.
if you didn't have your mother, you guys both would be in a different journey, maybe, and you don't know
Yeah.
where life would really take you. And it's just crazy how the universe works in its own way.
Mhm.
And it's always working for our best interest, even though it may not seem like it, right? But then,
Um,
right, like all of this actually led you to your life purpose of like you helping other people now, which is so beautiful, and you being able to share your story with others. And I that's what I truly think, because that's what my path led me into, doing this and being here and meeting all these amazing people. But yeah, that's amazing that your husband, honestly, and your mom was there for you. And what did they do to like help you support you through that time though? Just extra love and care, but some people don't even have that. So what does that even look like? You know?
yeah, so we're a family of faith. So a lot of prayer. That was like pinnacle during that time. And they really pushed me on areas that during that time I didn't want to be pushed on. So even finding like a positive for the day was hard for me. So my mom and my husband, they would both be like, "So what's your positive for the day?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't have one." And they're like, "You have one." And so, it would be like a beautiful day and I'm like, "The clouds." You know. So I would say my one thing for the day and then it just continued on from there. And I started just realizing that there is a lot of positives even during this dark time. And I started writing these things down on my mirror in my bathroom every day. So when I would wake up, that's what I would see, despite feeling the opposite.
Yeah.
So it got me through quite often. And then exercise was like so pinnacle. I'm very into my health and fitness. But during that time I could hardly get out of bed. So they're like, get up, like even though you feel crummy, take a walk or go for a run walk or do something, to move your body. And that's obviously proven to help the brain during that time heal. So,
That's
yeah.
amazing. Thank you for sharing those tips. Like, see, these are just little, like, basic tips, like, nothing super magical or anything, but it really are those little critical things that you do daily and reminders to help you through the day. So, anybody going through any type of hardship, really trying to look for the good, like what you're grateful for, is such a pivotal thing. It's so easy, but people are like, no, I don't think it's going to shift anything. But it really does. It really helps with your mindset. And so, and moving your body, it really does help, release the dopamine. That's why I love working out every day if I can, or just go at least for a walk outside or whatever it may be. But find the things that make you grateful and happy. So thanks for sharing that. I love that because that truly helped you. And how long did your first episode, psychosis, or your first time having it, right? You've had it multiple times and it's wild. I can't even imagine having to go through it once, but I know you've been through it, I think twice or at least three times. If you can, yeah, tell me that. That's
Yeah. So I thought, after this first time, okay, God, you brought me through this. Like, I'm never going to have to deal with this again. But um, alas, it didn't happen that way. Um, The second time I had it was about a year and a half later when COVID hit. Um, my husband and I just got rocked with COVID. We got like the Delta variant or something, and it
Mm.
ended up putting us into like a COVID pneumonia where we were hospitalized at that time. Um, and we did everything that we could during that time. Um, a nurse practitioner did not look at my charts and put me on prednisone, which is a steroid which causes psychosis. So if I would have gone to my regular doc, they would have known that. But this was like an urgent care that I went to. She put me on this, and I went into a COVID induced psychosis during that time.
Oh my gosh. That is,
So just to note, if you've ever had any manic issues, stay away from prednisone, any type of steroid, because it can trigger psychosis and mania.
oh my
So
God. That's good to know. Thank you. Like,
yeah,
wow. I didn't even
yeah,
know.
yeah. So this time was like very dark, very dark. I was in a deep depression. I was frankly very just mad. I was like, why? I wasn't mad at God, but I'm like, why did you let this happen? I knew you could stop it. Like, you could have stopped it. But he kept reminding me, there's meaning out of this. And I'm like, there's not. At that time, I'm like, there can't be. Um, but yeah, I was so alone, and we were just tapped out as a family. So like my husband was going through his own grieving, being a caretaker, and he was isolating. I was isolating. And then my daughter is here, and I'm having to mother too. And she was a lot older at that time too, so she knew what was going on. So I compare it to like running multiple ultra marathons. That's how I would compare it. Because you have these dreams that are demonic and dark and feel real, and you're fighting in your sleep. And so you wake up and you think it's reality, and then you're fighting those thoughts again. So it's like a 24-hour fight constantly. And this time it was like in the dead of winter, and it was awful because it was dark and gloomy, and you know so I went for walks every day, no ifs, ands, or buts. And during this time I actually went to one of the local studios here and danced that whole time, and just felt the emotions and cried and felt them again and cried. And I took my daughter with me. Luckily enough, we have a community that's just pretty awesome, so she opened her doors and gave me a key to her studio to dance. So that really, honestly, looking back on it, it really saved my life, because it got so dark at that point.
But that's so beautiful that you found dance. Did you always grow up dancing, or it's just you were just called to just dance and just move your body?
Yeah, so I started dancing when I was in sixth grade, which in Illinois is pretty late, because a lot of ladies and boys would start, when they were like 3 or 4. But I found that I absolutely loved it. I wasn't good at first at all, but my mom's like, if you want to get good and practice, just look at their feet. And so I did a summer workshop at a very competitive studio, and I said, I want to make this team. So I ended up practicing all the time, and ended up making this team that traveled the world to dance competitively. Um, and then in high school, I was in POMS um, and did that. The dance team, it was like the best years of my life. It was super fun. And then continued on to dance in college. I have my dance minor. So in the minor program there, contemporary ballet um, and contemporary lyrical, all that. And then was on the dance team there too. And then I just couldn't, it's in my blood at that point, and I couldn't stop. So then I just started educating others. And I taught for 10 plus years for high school students.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, contemporary jazz. I'm not much of a tapper, but yeah, contemporary and jazz were kind of my thing.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. I love how I know like the dark times, but it brings you closer to what you're truly meant to do. And you tap back into dancing, and that really helped with your healing. And that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And then walked and reminded you about your superpower. I'm like, this is it.
Yep.
So beautiful.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. And they say there is a study that shows that dance is so integral for the brain. It like builds your neurons. So yeah, it's incredible. I was just watching this video on Instagram, and it shows the study, dancing in particular. So that's why it kind of led me to this in the future. So
I love that. That's so beautiful. So anybody here listening, like start dancing.
yeah, dance in your kitchen, dance outside, wherever, everybody can dance.
It's so cute because I've been starting to just play dance with I don't really dance. I actually did Chinese dancing growing up as a kid actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I was not professional or anything. We just did it for fun. But my daughter is into dancing right now. She's really into this K-pop song, this new Bruno Mars Rosé K-pop song. And she keeps telling me to dance with her with that song. So it's so cute. So dancing does like I didn't know that it can create new neurons, which is even better. But it's just something fun to do with your kids if you're a mom or whatever it may be. And it's just a great way to just move your body and just to be happy. And I love that so much that that's your calling and that's what you're teaching others to do. It's beautiful. Oh, so I just wanted to say that like dance
Yeah.
has been a part of our life in the last couple of days or a couple of weeks.
That's awesome. Keep on going with it. I
So,
know those littles, they love it. So that's like our favorite thing to do when she gets home from school.
oh,
So, yeah.
so awesome. So does she do dancing with you like every day then or like to the dance studio, your daughter? Or she just
So
dances?
during this time, I had her enrolled uh, and dance twice, but then I had episodes. So
Mm.
she would have to miss out on the recital. She took a year of dance and going to lessons and everything, and then couldn't do recital. So we took this year off, but I think she wants to go back next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So I know you've tried several holistic and alternative therapies like ozone therapy, red light therapy. I've heard a lot about all this. And infrared sauna and PEMF therapy, etc. There's just so much. But what drew you to these options and like what kind of impact did they have on your overall healing journey?
Yeah. So I went down a rabbit hole because that's what I do. And I'm like, if there's Western medicine
Yeah.
and medications that can help you, there's on the flip side a holistic remedy, right? To help with symptoms. So PEMF, I actually also have an autoimmune disease. I have Hashimoto's. So that is supposed to help with proper cellular turnover. in your body. It has like electromagnetic fields in it that connect to your body, and can help you get in remission essentially from these thyroid diseases. Um, but I found quickly after researching that PEMF for somebody who's had uh, several psychotic episodes, that is a no-no. So, because that electromagnetic field can go directly to your brain and then set off psychosis. So if anyone has had that, I would definitely stay away from that. If you haven't, though, it's such an amazing tool, just to rewrite some of those bad cells in your body. Um, yeah, and it's very invasive, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. Ozone therapy, I did this for about a couple of years. So essentially, it's kind of daunting as I'm explaining it, but it's really not that bad. If you don't like blood, I guess, I don't know. So you put this, or the person that does it puts like a IV into your vein or whatever, and takes out your blood from your body. I don't remember how much. It's a very minimal amount. And then puts it into, from the IV, it puts it into this ozone oxygenated, I can't say that word, um, and spins it with oxygen, right? And then she continues on to put that back into your blood. So ozone therapy is great for people with autoimmune diseases, great for people with mental illness, and those who are sick a lot too. It helps just kind of get rid of the nasty cells in your body. So yeah. So if you're not, like, if you don't have the ick with like the blood stuff, definitely do it. But make sure you research where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to a functional med treatment center and they had it there. Obviously, infrared sauna, red light therapy. A lot of people do that now, or even have them in their homes. That's my goal. I'm hoping in the future, but I do that now, and it's just essential to get all the nasty toxins out of your body. And we have so much more in our environment than ever before when we were kids.
Yeah.
And for me, being on antipsychotics too, I just wanted to get rid of all that junk. So I do that on a weekly basis. I try to do it at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Oh, wow. So do you go to a facility to get this done or you do it at home?
I do. It's pretty pricey, and that's why we're looking at getting our own. But I just have a membership. It's
Oh,
they have like the red light included into the sauna as
okay.
well. So yeah, I do it there. But yeah, I mean, even just a plain sauna is
Yeah.
essential too, just to sweat out all the nasty.
Yeah, it's so true. And I love how you're giving all these alternative things because, again, you don't have to just rely on one thing that your doctor says. You can try other avenues. And, like, yes, maybe all these things don't help you, but there are things that may help you, to get you
Yeah.
close to what you need for your body.
And for me personally, obviously you don't have to do them all. You can just pick one or two that work for you.
Mhm.
Uh, but specifically for mental illnesses, it really decreased my symptoms quite a bit. So as you're clearing out your body, you're gonna feel less depressed. in that case because you're clearing out all the toxins. And I fully believe that there is a connection between that.
I
So
really do, because the whole body is actually connected, and I
mm,
only understood this fully after like going through all of my health journey. But I first started off with my journey of like physical health because that's what our society is all about, right? So then I was like learning how to eat healthier and to work out. But then later on, I found out like I have infertility, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my mental health's not doing really well. So then, like, I noticed that if I didn't take care of my physical, my mental was really suffering too. So then you figure out like your whole journey, everything's connected. Then later on, through infertility, I'm like, oh, my spiritual, emotional, like well-being is affected too. Like, what the, And then I start tapping into that. It's like everything, all four of those things need to be addressed because that's how you will be the healthiest version that you can be because every piece is connected. So that I love that you pointed that out because you're like, yeah, my physical and then my mental wasn't doing well. But then when you did one thing for your whole body, you felt it like throughout how it felt good for you. And
yeah,
so I want people to notice like, dude, it's a journey when you're healing. And it's not
yeah,
one outcome that you think it's going to happen, but you'll overall feel like the good effects of it, right? Like,
yeah.
which
It's
is,
not for the weak, that's for sure. So, oftentimes, I mean, you have to be your own advocate. You know that.
mhm.
And take the bull by the horns, because no one's going to tell you what to do during that. Western medicine certainly isn't.
Yeah,
Uh, so, and that's my biggest advice is that, like, know what works for your body, you
yeah.
know. And obviously, genes play a huge part of that. Um, that gives you kind of your roadmap on where you should go um, physically and what you should be putting in your body as well. So,
Yeah, I love that. But how do people even know about like what their genetics is? Because I didn't even know, right? I didn't even know I had endometrial cells. Like I went through, my episode of like being so painful, and they're like, yeah, it's genetics. And I asked my mom later on, like, oh, did you have crazy period? Yeah, I did. Isn't that normal? And then her mom had it. She's like, yeah, that's normal. My mom had that too. Like, I'm
oh
like, dude,
my,
it's not normal. Okay. I guess you wouldn't really know what's not normal if it's like generations of women through your family?
yeah, and that generation, they did not talk about it. So, yeah, they just like grinned and bared it.
Mhm.
So, we're finding out our generation is like, okay, we want to do something about this and rewrite what they didn't do, and didn't talk about. And not that it's a fault of theirs, it's just the way that they were raised and, whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
That's why I'm
yeah.
like, this generation, our generation, we are like most powerful because we have to break free from that and then like do our own thing and then teach it to the next generation. I'm like,
Ah,
crap. Like,
I know, change makers.
we are. We're breaking
Yeah.
all these patterns and creating new ones, like
Yeah.
creating better future. And I think this is why our generation's the best.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Our
agree.
parents out there.
I agree. I'm with you.
It's a lot. And I feel like our generation is more woke, meaning like we are more aware of what we can do for ourselves. And I feel like we're more badass in that way. It felt like a lot of our generation, we are standing up for, like, especially in the endometriosis world, like a lot of women are standing up, speaking for themselves, advocating. And so, like, now, endometriosis is more known in the medical community because of like all the advocacy and all the badass women like speaking up and doing their duty. So it's,
Yeah,
and so I know you're
so powerful. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, we're all warriors out there. So,
in different ways. And this is why I love having people tell their stories and what works for them and what doesn't, because maybe you might just hit that one person that needs to hear what you went through, because that was how I actually went through my journey. going through infertility. I just listened to one lady and no, I was listening to Jay Shetty, and then he had somebody on, and then that led me down a rabbit hole of finding like holistic routes of like how I could heal my body more holistically, right, than just being on painkillers all day long. So I was like, wow, that's so powerful just by them telling their story and then implementing whatever they did. So I love that. So thank you for sharing that. I know that you mentioned that you were staying at a facility, a psychiatric facility for 2 weeks. How has that experience like made a difference for you?
Yeah, so this last round, if you will, was not psychosis. It was severe um, anxiety, whatnot. I had major intrusive thoughts. So um, we had a family meeting, and my husband and I prayed about it and just felt like we needed to go to the facility that's here locally in Oconomowoc. They are worldwide. They're known around the world and have facilities across the country. It's called Rogers Memorial Health, and they really do things in a more holistic way, along with medication if needed. So they use nature and art therapy, experiential therapy, and kind of tie that in when you're at the facility. So it was really hard getting me there because I didn't want to face being put on antipsychotics again. That was kind of my biggest thing. I begged God. I was like, just please, please, I cannot do it again. I cannot like figure out a way to like get me with a psychiatrist that can get to the root cause here. And he heard my prayer. He brought a psychiatrist and a therapist that were like integral to my healing, and really listen to me. A lot of these psychiatrists are like pill pushers.
Mhm.
You got to find the right one. So, like, he came into my room and sat on the floor and just talked to me. Like, hey, start me from the beginning. Where, let's tell your story here. And I've had some pretty trauma filled situations in my lifetime that I won't get into, but um, he's like, all this affects what you're going through. And Aubrey, this is not psychosis. This is, I'm not saying that the other ones were not, but this is not. This mimics OCD. So OCD, a lot of people think of OCD as like, I can't stop washing my hands, or, something very similar to that, like cleaning and continuing to clean over the same spot. Well, that's not necessarily true. A lot of it is very invasive thoughts, thoughts against yourself. In my case, I just wanted to die. And I would have that same thought over and over and over and over. So I had to train myself to say, like, this is not you as a person. That thought is not okay. So we're going to reverse it and put a positive spin on it. It takes a lot of time, but your brain starts to remap itself. Our brains are incredible. And yeah, it just starts to remap. But I also was diagnosed with PTSD and a severe anxiety disorder. I was having like 5+ anxiety attacks, panic attacks per day. And it was awful. It was just debilitating. I couldn't live properly, during that time. So he was like, this is a shot in the dark, but I just feel like I can help you without using antipsychotics. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Like, so he's like, sertraline is an anti, anxiety med. It takes a while to kick in, several weeks, but let's try it out. And I was like, okay, let's try it out. And sure enough, like that was exactly the drug that my brain and body needed. And I'm like back to being myself, my goofy self. And yes, it's life changing. So, um, he, yeah, Dr. T, I'll just say his name is, he was, yeah, integral part. And yeah, changed my life.
I'm so happy for you that you kept fighting for yourself. You kept doing it, and it led you into exactly where you needed to be healed, and to meet the person that was going to help you.
Yeah.
It's just, I just got chills because it just reminds me of my path too, of like where it leads. Like, God does its little breadcrumbs here and there to lead you to the right route. And so it's so beautiful. I had a one doctor that really saved my life too. And it was my IVF doctor who introduced me to my endometriosis surgeon specialist. And for endometriosis, you have to be an endo specialist. You can't just have any surgeon do it, or any OBGYN or whatever. Like, you have to specialize in it. And so yeah, thank God though. Like, she had an opening and I was in so much pain. Someone canceled magically, and she's like, you either do it now or you have to wait till like months out, like 6 months out or whatever, because endometriosis is so in high demand right now. Like, because people are in so much pain. It's so crazy. And yeah, she got me in, and I'm just like, I got the help that I needed at the right timing. But like, what if I did not meet my IVF doctor who knew her and it's just about timing too. And it's just so beautiful to see all the signs of like how God really does help you in that right way. And
He
so I'm glad
does.
you got the help. And yeah, you look so beautiful, gorgeous. You look
Oh, thank you.
Honestly, I would not in a million years know that you went through all that, because you look so happy, healthy, just normal. And this is why we all need to be so kind to others, because you have no idea what they are going through, right? We may look beautiful and, happy right now, but you don't know what was going on literally just days before or something, right? And just like, a lot of people right now need to just be kind to one another and just love each other. And a lot of us are going through some mental health issues, like maybe not as severe as you, but there's still people going through, and we all do that. So it's beautiful. I love that you're working on mental health apparel right now to help raise awareness. So, what message do you hope to share with others, especially those who may be going through similar struggles?
Yeah, so my mental health apparel, I should know about 2 years ago, my husband and I were in Florida,
Mhm.
and I had this just vision of how it should play out essentially. So I wrote, just different things that can be put on sweatshirts and shirts and hats, because you don't see that often. And it's a conversation piece. It's getting out there, you know. So, um, along with dance therapy, I figured this would marry well to what I'm trying to accomplish, and that's to help others find their voice. So, essentially, number one, I just feel for this community. I've seen so much, so many lost people out there, lost people that just take the psychiatrist at their word and are on these drugs and just zombified and not themselves, you know. And granted, I do feel like meds play a part in some cases, but I do feel like some people are over medicated.
Yeah.
And they just feel alone in it. Um, I'm going to tell you an example. I'm a part of a Facebook moms group essentially in my community. And I can tell you about 5 different times where there has been an anonymous post about mental health. They feel like they cannot even put their name on it.
How sad.
And that's just so sad to me. And if I can help someone with my story, help them share their story and help others, it's just a cyclical effect, right?
Yeah.
And then they can find a community and essentially to help them as well, not feel so alone. Um, the other thing I'd like to say is I know in the loneliest part and darkest part of my episodes, I just felt like I wasn't enough. And I'm like, they don't deserve this. My family doesn't deserve this. And I know that that's a thought of a lot of people out there, but
Mhm.
it's so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth. You know, just because it's in the brain doesn't make it any less different than someone who has like a broken leg, right? We're going to go to therapy for that, right? We're going to talk about it and say, I broke my leg today. Like, why aren't we talking about what's going on in our mind too? And which is essentially helping us fix the issue. And by talking about it, that's also helping your brain heal.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, I just the little I can do, I'm gonna do. So God was very apparent. He had this placed on my heart 4 years ago, and I did not listen. So fast forward, and I'm like, okay, I got you. I I will open up this business, and and here we are. So it's so interesting the doors that he's opened already, and um, yeah, even if it's just to help one person, honestly. So that's that is my duty with having this happen to me so many times, um, just to share my story and in hopes to help others. So
Oh, you're such a kind, beautiful soul, and you just really want to help others. And you're that light for a lot of people. Trust me, there is a God's plan for you of whatever you went through is meant to lead you exactly where you are. And you're gonna make these beautiful apparels. I can't wait to see them and support you in that. And you're doing your dance therapy, which is gonna change and help so many people, honestly. Because dancing is such a beautiful way to like heal from a lot of other things too. So that's amazing. And I'm just so glad you're here. You were able to share your story and your journey. And I was so thankful to even listen to and being here and giving me that opportunity. So where can people find you more? And obviously I'll put the links in the show note below, but any last words you have too as well for the listeners.
yeah, so you can find me on socials. I gave the links to you, I believe, too, but Instagram or Facebook at this point. My website is under construction right now. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, a couple of spots there that you can find out a little bit more about me. Stay tuned for the apparel coming. I'm working on that as we speak, so I'm pretty excited about that. Um, I guess the last thing that I would like to say and that I feel led to say is don't give up. Like I've seen so many people give up in my life. And even though this is like the hardest thing that you'll ever have to go through, God's got you. And you are his masterpiece. So whatever you feel is broken inside your brain or why your brain is acting in the way that it is acting, there's ultimately a purpose that comes out of that. And I hope you find that you can help others too during this. Um, so like that's my biggest thing for people to understand, that that can be their superpower. You know, it took me a long time for me to realize that. I'm like, God's not going to use this. Like, even though he was telling me, like, he's going to. Um, I've seen it every single time I've gone through it. So, you're enough. You're not alone. I see you. Like, just, you know, get together with a community of trusted people, a trusted inner circle that you can talk to and support you through this. Um, there are, for postpartum mamas, there's an international group. It's called Postpartum International, and they're a 24-hour hotline. So mamas that have, you know, postpartum depression, anxiety, OCD, psychosis, any of that. So they meet on a weekly basis. And I can even post that or give that information to you for you to send over. And then NAMI is also a phenomenal group. So they're the National Association of Mental Illness. And they have subsets in each state. So for me personally, I go to a local church here that has a NAMI supportive group of individuals that are going through similar things throughout their mental illness. So just being a part of a community is so, so, so important.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So much for sharing all of that. And it's crazy because I have heard of NAMI. My client actually was telling me about NAMI, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And
Yeah.
so you just mentioned it. So, okay, it is a huge thing. So that's amazing. That's awesome. And she's suffering with mental health issues as well, and she's an advocate. So I think she would benefit from this episode. So it's so exciting. And it's always meant to be. Everything is always meant to be in divine timing. So thank you for being here. And it was such an honor. And the story really hit hard for me. And yes, I didn't have like the same, manic episodes or psychosis, but even
Doesn't
going through endometriosis and health issues, we all relate in some capacity and way. And so this is why hearing stories and coming together and loving one another and just supporting others is just such a beautiful and powerful tool to have. So thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I mean, I think that every person has a story, right? So whether mine is psychosis, yours is endometriosis and infertility, like we're all fighting something, right? So just being that community and helping each other out is so important.
Yeah.
So
Oh, thank you so much.
thank you.